Welcome to the Mike Litton Experience podcast. Mike has over 31 years experience in real estate, finance, and investing. He's passionate about being a father, a teacher, a realtor, an investor, and a leader. Everyone has a story, and our passion is to help them tell it. And now, introducing the host of the Mike Litton Experience, Mike Litton.
So what can you expect from the Mike Litton Experience? You can expect stories that will inspire, motivate, advice that will sharpen your focus, and expert information on real estate, finance, and market conditions.
If you live a healthy life. But she loved to party, she loved to booze, and then it got serious there, my early childhood days. My mom had three, my oldest brother and then three girls back to back. So my oldest sister Jenna, Jessie, me, and then Jill. And we're all like a year apart because my mom and dad met when they were like 30 and like we're like, let's do this, I want kids too, boom boom boom. And that's all good and great, but in a lot of my family, actually my extended family have alcoholism runs in my family. And she couldn't kick it, right? And when she finally did, she went to AA, got cleaned up, and it was a really great thing for our family. She actually had she actually had a liver transplant, lived for another 7 years, and then ultimately ended up dying. But my dad really had to clean up like that. My mom started a business that failed, and he basically tried his best to make it work. So I watched my dad be a West Virginia coal miner for 40 years. And he'd work MAD, midnight, afternoon, daylight. And my dad worked in that position for a long time where he could easily get a supervisor's position. They even asked him. Several times he could have walked the corporate ladder and went higher. And he always said no because me and my sisters played sports competitively and he wanted to be able to be there for our games. So
cool is that?
Yeah, like every midnight, afternoon, daylight, here's what he would do. He'd go to midnight shift and then he'd get off in the morning at 8 a.m. or whatever, 7 a.m., I don't even know. And then he owned his own insurance company as well. He'd go to the office, literally his office, all day long, come home, or go to our games or whatever, finish the game, eat dinner, sleep from like maybe 8 till like 11, and then do it again. The guy slept like 4 hours a night, as long as I can fucking remember.
Wow. Crazy.
So he's definitely someone that I look up to, and like I don't know how, and that's what established all my hard work. I watched him work his off for our family and do what he could around the house because he was never there because he was working 2 jobs, right? And providing for us. And we never went without, like, yeah, we're straight middle class, right? We were not rich by any means, but we were not hungry. We had a roof over our head. We always had school books and clothes and all the things that we ever needed, and so, and he did his best to raise us as like properly. And truthfully, when I look back at like between me and my sisters and all of our friends and stuff, I'm like, they did it right. They raised us right. Like me and my sisters are all hardworking. We don't take. I don't expect a thing. And if you expect anything from the government or from someone else, well, you better the government's not here to bail me out when it's when I go to retire. If you want money in your retirement, you best save, and you best save right. There's a right way and a wrong way to do it. If you're just putting money under your pillow, well, you try to look somewhere else and start to network with some really good people, because that's not the proper way. Yes, you'll have money saved, but you won't have enough. So like pay attention to that. And so anyway, I always really took strength from him, and I still do, because I just watched him I can't believe he did what he did. Yeah. And he just had to do what he had to do what he had to do. So I'd say my dad was probably the one that I looked up to the most.
What was it Ronald Reagan said? The most feared words in the English language are, "I'm from the government and I'm here to help."
Oh, yeah. Oh, hell no. Yeah, hell no. Because they ain't helping. They're just trying to dig in your pocket some more. Yeah. I've never paid more attention to politics and like anything politicky until literally the last like several months of my life. So you're catching me at that time too, which is interesting because like again, I think after COVID, I think that COVID exposed a lot of the and if you're not like, and if you end up listening to this and you don't pay attention to the like, just open up your eyes to the it's all I'm asking. Like just start to pay attention to where the money goes and just start asking better questions and just pay attention and then protect yourself. That's all.
A very interesting thing happened in the last few years. You became a mom.
Yes, and I bet that's why exactly.
Yeah, and I told my kids, I said, when you start having kids,
it all and the truth is, yes, they say your whole life shifts when you have kids. Yes, because you're not doing the same shit you used to do because you can't go out all night anymore or even till midnight because I have to be up at 6 a.m. So is it even worth it to go out till midnight? So like, yes, it is occasionally. Like I'll still go like twice a year where I drank too much those 2 times, you know. But usually I'm like, okay. And the next morning you're like, yeah, that's why I don't do this anymore. I can't. My body cannot take it, and it's not worth it because I can't be the present, like successful, like completely all-in parent that I want to be and or business person, right?
And you have little ones waking you up at 4 a.m.
Yes, exactly. Yes.
So we're clear.
Like, yeah, the little one was up at 4 a.m. this morning. So yes, exactly. Yeah. So it's not worth it to jeopardize my overall health and just my mental well-being. But also, again, you're not. So your life changes when you become a parent, and so you're just based on the sleep schedule. But also, again, now I'm protector. I wasn't a protector before. I was a party animal before. Now I'm like, now I have to be a protector. Now I have to look at all these little extra things that are going to go on for them. Yeah. Then I have to pay attention to like, well, who's in charge of them during those extra? Yes, I'm in charge, but like, who else is in charge? Right. What else are they listening to? Right. What kind of teaching indoctrination are they getting?
What kind of agendas are people bringing?
What kind of agendas are you pushing and why?
Right.
I'm curious about the why behind a lot of this bullshit.
It's amazing how the mama bear thing happens.
Oh my God.
You know, it's like you become somebody that you almost never thought you'd be.
Totally.
Like you know, and it's
it really is.
Parenthood's an amazing thing. It's an amazing thing.
I love you said that you never thought you'd be it because I truthfully, too, like you were talking about earlier about your son. I agree with you. Like this might be TMI, but whatever, I don't really care. I mean, this is not like illegal or anything, so it doesn't really matter. But my husband has some guns, right? And he's like, hey, just FYI, I think I want to go buy another gun. I'm like, buy. I don't care. Some guns, dude. He's like, well, here's why. I want to buy another gun because they're passing a law in California that no matter what, in the summer, 25% increase on guns and ammo. Across the board. Why? Because they don't want you to have guns and ammo in California, okay? Right. So it's like little by little we're trying to take our Second Amendment right, okay? And by the way, I'm not, and I get why. I get the bigger picture of why, but I also see the other bigger picture of why. Sure, you want to have less guns and ammo on the street for people to just walk into a school and up. Yes, I'm with that. What's the other reason? Well, let's take a deeper look into the other reason that they don't want guns and ammo nationwide. If you don't have again, that Second Amendment is so freaking important to our country's like survival and our country's I don't know the word I'm looking for, but it's to our right to our freedom. Like that, like pay the deeper attention to it. So anyway, long story short, he's like, hey, I'm gonna go buy another gun because it's gonna go up 25% regardless. And I was like, okay, buy a gun. And then when he went, he was like, hey, I'm gonna buy you a gun. And I was like, all right, buy me a gun, bro. So like, my point is the mama bear, like I wanna learn how to use it. Obviously, I'm gonna learn how to use it. I'm not just gonna buy it, sit it. Like I'm gonna learn how to use it properly and safely. We obviously have 2 young boys. We're gonna make sure that these are not loaded, but figure out like ways that they are completely protected and locked up. Because I grew up in West Virginia where my dad had a whole gun case. Sure, it was locked, but I could just smash the gun, like it was glass, super thin glass. I could have just punched it and taken any of his rifles. And he had major hunting rifles. So like, I've been around guns all my life, but I want to learn how to really use it because to your point, like. Again, mama bear, if you come in my house, you better be, whatever I love the sign that you were talking about, you better be prepared to receive the wrath of this mama bear. And I'm already in that position, not even, obviously not like attacking us like legitimately. I'm talking just like in our current daycare, like they want to push COVID agendas. I'm like, you're not giving my kid a COVID shot. Period. End of the story.
Right.
Period. You want to get the COVID shot every day of your life, go for it. I do not care, but you're not giving that to my son. And the moment they mandate it, sadly, is the moment we would have to leave, because I'm just not having it.
Yeah.
I'm not having it.
I'm with you.
It's like there's certain things that are just, again,
Exactly.
the mama bear is out and I'm paying way more attention.
Right.
And I'm all about protecting them, and not just protecting like what they're learning and the values that we're going to instill in them, but protecting them financially. Like I'm already setting up we already have our estate plan, and I'm putting my son on payroll this coming year. It's like he's 2.5, but hey, he works because he's taking pictures for marketing, and I'm going to figure out make sure that we're working the right avenues here. As soon as he's old enough, he can help stuffing envelopes and helping stamp letters and just important things that need to get done for the business. So, but I'm already setting them up financially, because that's the one thing that my dad really worked hard to do, and it never really translated to me and my sisters. But I want my kid to get to 18 and him not know it, but him have a nice little chunk of money. I stole this from somebody else, but I'm going to do it, and I like this. I want to repeat it as much as possible. So they're too young now, right? But like when they're old enough to like get a bank account, and actually you could probably have a bank account already, but when they're old enough to understand the concepts. So every Saturday, like they'll get an allowance, right, from doing household chores, and understand like you put in X, you get Y out or whatever. Here's how this works. And here's what we do with the money. So you make $10. You made $10 this week from working with us at the house. So we're gonna go to the bank and deposit the money. But here you deposit every paycheck you get. Today it's $10. You divide it into 3. You put a third in your checking account, so you always have money to spend. You put a third in your savings account, so you always have money saved. And you invest a third. And into the stock market or whatever. So I'm just going to show them that strategy, and if little by little, even if we did it once a month till they were 18, taking them to the bank, depositing them, they're gonna have, because the one thing I can't wait when they're like, I don't know, 7 or 8 or whatever, how old kids are when they start asking you for but like, hey mommy, I want this, can you like buy it, can you please buy it? I want to look at him and say, buddy, you got money in your account, you go buy it. Last I checked, like, you have X amount of money in your account, honey. You want to buy it? Do you need it? Do you want it? Buy it.
How important is it to you?
Hey, do you need it? Do you want it? Is it important to you? Buy it. You make that decision. I want him to understand. I want them to understand the concept and flow of money, and like not just buying it because it's like, I ask myself those questions. Like, do I need it? Do I want it? And then for me, with like clothing, for example, it needs to fit perfectly in order to buy it. If I don't feel good or look good in it, I'm not buying it.
Right.
Or I'm not buying something like a little bit smaller because I know I'll be in that weight class one day. Like, stop doing that, people.
Yeah, no kidding.
Stop doing that.
No kidding.
So like, anyway,
Guilty.
I digress. But yeah, I just want to teach some financial concepts so that, like, again, there wasn't, not that my dad didn't do that, he did his best. But there's little strategies, teaching them little things that in like understanding credit and understanding the flow of money. Because like, I think that if we taught that more in schools, and we taught that more in balancing checkbook and just understanding more in than out, and like we just don't overspend, and you have to save for the rainy day. You have to and especially like what we're working with right now, you have to save twice for the rainy day. We're in the rainy day, and it's going to get worse.
Yeah. I agree.
Before it gets better.
I lost my train of thought.
I know.
There was something I was
Sorry.
no, it's okay. There was something I was going to tell you, and I just completely lost it, and that's really not good. Especially when you're a podcast host and you're in the middle of a podcast interview.
Hey.
But
okay.
So the financial part is incredibly important. It's incredibly important that you and by the way, I just got my thought back.
Okay, good.
It's dementia, right? So I spent an hour and 32 minutes on the phone the other day with a guy that my daughter was dating. Now, thank God she's broken up with him. But I spent an hour and 32 minutes on the phone with her because she had gotten to a point to where she had helped him all she could, and she's like, you need my dad now. He wanted to buy a truck, and his first 2 car loans were turned down because he's an idiot. Okay? And he's an idiot because nobody growing up, nobody ever shared with him. Right? So you can imagine, my children grew up in a house that I owned and I ran. And they picked up a ton about credit, about finance, about everything. I mean, everything, right? And I'm just now starting to understand, and they're just now starting to understand how far ahead they are compared to everybody else. And so I called my ghostwriter after I hung up with this kid. I called my ghostwriter and said, I just spent an hour and 32 minutes on the phone with my daughter's boyfriend, coaching him on not getting his car loan declined again, right? And I said, this is exactly why we're writing this book on homeownership, because we started, by the way, in January. We're recording this in December of 2023. So next month we start this deal in earnest. And I called him and I said, I don't have an hour and 32 minutes for 330 million people, right? That's why we're writing this book.
Yeah.
That's exactly what we're doing. And so part of what we're talking about in the book is, this is what a FICO score is, and this is how you play the game.
Yes.
This is how you succeed, right?
It's a game.
It really is.
It's literally a game.
It really is.
And
we're gonna talk about the game, its origin, because they came up with this for speed. That FICO scores are literally taking your life and putting it into a number.
Yep.
Okay? How do you do that when you can't discern things like, I had a family member die, or I got in a car accident, or all these things happened, right? It's interesting because they literally took life and all of its variables and assigned a number to it.
Right.
And they did it so that they could have a thing called automated underwriting, where computers can make a decision on whether or not you get a home loan.
Right.
Automated underwriting for car loans, automated underwriting for credit cards. Everything that's opportunity, quote unquote opportunity, is tied to your FICO score, which was literally designed to cost them less money to get people through the pipeline.
Crazy.
Come on.
Right.
And what they didn't do, and have never done, is they've never gone to the American people and said, okay, here's why.
Right.
Here's what this means, and here's how you win.
Right.
They're not teaching people in high school. They're not teaching people in college. They're not teaching people, period.
No, but to your point, I think it's because they don't want people to win. Obviously.
Well,
right?
I think it's hierarchical. Hierarchical.
Right.
I
don't know that.
Whatever that word was, right? It's a hierarchy, and there's a hierarchy of the haves and the have-nots.
Right.
Okay. The haves have access to all that stuff.
Right.
They can get all the education that they want.
Right.
The have-nots are just kind of out there flailing.
Right.
Okay? And so that's why we're writing the book. We're writing the book because we're going to level the playing field.
Yeah.
And part of the reason we're doing it is, and I just found this out the other day, by the way, this is the second time that I've mentioned it on the podcast, but there are 50 million millennials that are getting ready to buy a house in the next 13 years, according to Freddie Mac. And those people, unfortunately, have PTSD as it relates to the Great Recession.
Totally.
Because they were children back then.
Totally.
And they watched the people that were close to them lose their houses.
Right.
And so part of what we're doing, so according to the National Association of Realtors, the average homeowner's net worth is over $300,000. The average tenant's net worth is less than $8,000. Okay? There's a $292,000 delta there. Take that number and multiply it by tens of millions of millennials.
Right.
And we now know 50 million, right? 292,000 times 50 million is a lot. And when you also consider that 74% of this nation's net worth is real estate,
right,
you better take care of the real estate.
Right.
You and I were just talking about this before we hit record. You better take care of real estate if you're going to take care of the economy.
Right.
Period.
Right.
Okay? And that's what this is about. I believe, I'm just crazy enough, and you know how insane I am, I'm just crazy enough to believe that I can drive a national narrative about how homeownership, to millennials, about how homeownership needs to be part of the American dream.
For sure. For sure, but let me question this then. You've heard about Wall Street buying real estate, buying a load of it too. So, single family homes in particular, how does that play out?
Well, great question. So two things. So I just had a conversation the other day. I know you're going to find this hard to imagine, knowing me. I called on a sign that was in a yard that said for rent.
Okay.
Because I was trying to find a place for one of my sellers. I had sold their house for $110,000 above list price. Presented the offer to the husband. He signed it immediately. Just presented it to the wife. She said, I don't know. I think I want to stay here for a year. I don't know if I want to sign this. So I went to work finding her a rental. And I called on the sign. Guy calls me back 3 hours later. And we spent over an hour on the phone. Turns out he's the chief of staff of one of the biggest hospitals in California.
Okay.
And we spent over an hour on the phone, and he said, hey, I built a medical group years ago, and I sold it to Blackstone, and Blackstone sends me their annual report. Or sold it to a company or to a group that sold it to Blackstone.
Okay.
And he said, they sent me their annual report. He said, did you know in 2018 they started buying thousands and thousands of single family detached homes? And I said, yeah. He goes, why? Here's the reason. We had a thing called the Tax Reform Act of 2017 that was passed. I don't know if you remember it, but it unfortunately, jacked up the standard deduction.
Okay. So
that owning a home is not now a tax advantage like it used to be. Okay? Unless you own a home that has $1 million plus mortgage on it, right? That's not normal. That's rare, right? So that encouraged people to not buy. So that is the follow-up to that. That's what started all this. Because, now Madison Avenue, the marketing geniuses, right? They now are going to the hedge fund managers and going, hey, they're not going to buy real estate anymore because it's not advantageous for them to do it.
Right.
So they start buying real estate. The other thing that happened was they identified that millennials in 2018 were starting to get into home ownership, household creation. They were starting to have babies. They were starting to get married. They were starting to do the stuff you're doing, right? Household creation. So they also found out from the surveys that millennials don't like real estate. They don't like homes. They don't want to own a home. They're perfectly fine renting for the rest of their lives. And so they figured out with those two things combined, they have quite a market. Okay, it's interesting. In 2018, a buddy of mine was a home builder. 2018, they would go to these home builder shows, and these hedge funds started showing up and going, we want to hire you, literally going up to the builders and saying, we want to hire you on a fee basis. We want you to go buy a piece of land and build 1,000 single family detached homes for us in Arizona. And we're going to rent all of them out. We're not going to sell them.
Yeah.
Okay? And the whole thing was a fee-based transaction. I mean, right?
Yeah.
And so
what builder's going to say no to that?
Yeah, well, this builder, his buddy of mine, started calling me going, what's going on? So I'm having this conversation with him too, right? So what's interesting about this is there is a whole class of the single largest generation we have right now living is millennials by far. And they are, unfortunately, willing and want to rent property out. And so these hedge funds have identified it, and they're, so there's two things in the federal tax code that are the most incentivized activities you can do.
Okay.
Number one is owning a corporation and employing people.
Yep.
Right behind it is owning rental real estate. Okay? And it's why there are more millionaires made in the US in real estate than in any other venture, any other investment, by far.
By far.
And so if you start looking at it, and from a hedge fund standpoint, it's an absolute no-brainer. It just is brilliant.
Yep.
Because the return that they get on their money is insane.
Oh, shout out to Daniel Tremello, right?
Daniel was on, by the way.
Nice.
He was on with us.
Nice. I want to listen to.
Yeah, that was really cool.
His podcast.
That was really cool.
So, he's been kind of coaching me, for lack of a better word, on that whole concept. And he used to do stocks. He used to be a wealth strategist and worked in that finance. So he understands how money works. He understands a lot. And I asked him the other day, how much money you got in the stock market? And he said, I don't have a single penny in the stock market. And I said, you gotta be
We hope you enjoyed another episode of the Mike Litton Experience. If you did, do us a favor, smash that subscribe button, tell your friends, family, and coworkers about our program, and wherever you get your podcasts, please leave us a rating. It helps us to connect with quality people just like you.
And that's a wrap. Another episode of the Mike Litton Experience in the books. Reach out to Mike on Instagram at Litton Realty. Want to meet with Mike? Check out calendly.com/Rio760.